On the 27th of April each year, the bravery of a certain Filipino hero is celebrated throughout the country. But who was this man, and what exactly did he do to warrant such an accolade? This is the story of Lapu-Lapu and his resistance against the Spanish Empire. Lapu-Lapu was one of two Datus of the island of Mactan, which in 1521 was part of the realm of Sugbo. Sugbo, which was ruled by Raja Humabon, and remember his name because we'll come back to him, is the old name for what we today call the Filipino province of Cebu in the Visayas region of the Philippines. We know that Lapu-Lapu was part of the Magino nobility social class and that he had likely come from the neighbouring island of Borneo and was awarded island in Mactan to populate. Although technically an outsider, the locals of Mactan accepted Lapu-Lapu as one of their own. He fiercely defended the island against pirates, protected his people, and helped the island prosper economically. Now, in 1521, Portuguese explorer Ferdinand Magellan, who was under the employ of the Spanish crown, stumbled upon the island of Samar on his way to Indonesia. He struck up alliances with the local rulers, one of which was Raja Humabon. Not only did he gain their friendship, but he managed to convince Humabon and his wife to convert to Catholicism, changing his name to Don Carlos in the process. I think I can understand how Magellan must have thought himself supernatural or above the local peoples. The ease with which he was able to convert Raja Humabon, who was supposedly the ruler of this land, must have made him feel powerful. Magellan was eager to spread Catholicism to all neighbouring islands and regions in Cebu. So after converting Raja Humabon, tribute was requested from all leaders in the region in addition to conversion to Catholicism and recognition of the Spanish crown. And all leaders complied, including the other Datu of the island of Mactan, whose name was Zula. Lapu-Lapu, however, declined to send tribute. He didn't want anything to do with the Spaniards, and his defiance couldn't go unpunished. Raja Humabon is thought to be the one to entice the Spaniards to attack Lapu-Lapu, which of course Magellan complied with. But there's quite an interesting theory by the historian William Henry Scott, who notes that Magellan makes the mistake of thinking that the region operated under the same principle as European kingdoms, where a king would rule over all regional vassals. So with Raja Humabon converted, it's fair to think that Magellan believed that he could convert everyone, because surely they would want to follow their king, so to speak. What Magellan failed to realize is that although Raja Humabon was recognized as the island's ruler, he wasn't really a king as we think of royalty today, as the region operated more on a chiefdom basis, so his rule over the island was limited. So here is the question. Was Raja Humabon simply using the Spaniards as a way to attack Lapu-Lapu, who he had been quarreling with and fighting with for some time? Did he make Magellan think that Lapu-Lapu was his vassal simply to start a war? A force of around 60 Spaniards and some warriors provided by Humabon set sail for Mactan. This, of course, was the lead-up to the Battle of Mactan, where Lapu-Lapu would set his name in stone. Before we go on, we must point out that most of the information we have on the event is from an Italian chap named Antonio Pigafetta. He was an explorer that was part of Magellan's expedition and was in charge of noting the voyages and events. Pigafetta notes that upon arriving in Mactan, Magellan's ships could not land on the island due to corals and rocks. He also stated that Lapu-Lapu stood with 1,500 men armed with swords, bows and spears, but of course this figure could be hyperinflated, we don't exactly know. Magellan once again tells Lapu-Lapu to swear fealty to Raja Humabon, recognize the Spanish crown and pay tribute. Lapu-Lapu declines and taunts Magellan to fight. Magellan waits until morning and tells the native warriors that Raja Humabon had provided him to stay on the boat. It's unclear why he does this, but perhaps he wants to show off the superiority of European armory and weaponry. so he and 49 heavily armored Spaniards jump off the boats and wade their way to shore to meet Lapu-Lapu. Once on shore, Magellan and his men light some huts on fire in a bid to scare the warriors, but this only angers Lapu-Lapu more. He orders his men to attack Magellan, swiftly killing 2 Spaniards in one fell swoop. Magellan orders a retreat, but it's a little too late. The natives recognize him as the leader and aim for his legs, where he gets hit by a poisoned dart and soon becomes overwhelmed by Lapu-Lapu's warriors. Some of the Spaniards are able to flee, including Pigafetta, who journals the event, but the famous explorer Ferdinand Magellan is killed and defeated on the shores of Mactan, and Lapu-Lapu resists the invaders for a little longer. Now, there is plenty of speculation as to what truly transpired during the battle and what drove it. Some historians believe that Lapu-Lapu was actually angry at the Spaniards, who wanted him to bend the knee to Raja Humabon, even though he considered him to be inferior, whilst some say that Raja Humabon simply used the Spaniards to try and kill Lapu-Lapu, who had reportedly started pirating merchant ships that came into Cebu, which hurt the region economically. As with a lot of history, we simply don't know for sure, and probably never will. But either way, this event and Lapu-Lapu's bravery gave birth to the first Filipino hero, who 500 years later still inspires people throughout the country.